Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Balanced Scorecard. Some of you have probably talked about it at least briefly in one of your management classes or possibly even in principles, but it is a concept that has made its way into management practices all over the world. So the idea was when we look at IT, a lot of companies took a look at the investments they're making in IT, and when they finally sat down and tried to do a review on them, realized they weren't getting much in the way of return on them. Putting the IT investments basically to the same rigor that you would a capital investment in a new mall or in developing a new market or product development just made a lot of sense. So the Balanced Scorecard is a way that allows you to do this in a lot of different domains, but particularly for IT, where a lot of the touted benefits are future benefits that are way more difficult to measure. So the idea with the Balanced Scorecard is we're going to look at how the initiative is going to help build capabilities, skills, opportunities to do things better in the future, and then try and monetize that. Art Schneiderman actually is the inventor of the Balanced Scorecard approach. He didn't actually call it that. He was working in a company called Analog Devices back in 1987 when a couple of Harvard researchers, Kaplan and Norton, came to look and see what he was doing. And he had put together a set of performance metrics, KPIs if you will, key performance indicators, across a variety of different perspectives, which we now consider the Balanced Scorecard perspective. So Kaplan and Norton wrote a Harvard Business Review article and then later a book on that and coined the term Balanced Scorecard, an article in 1990 and then the book shortly after, and it became a hugely popular management craze during the 90s and on beyond that, to the point where it became pretty much a standard approach to managing organizations. So you see it used a lot in businesses and all kinds of organizations. I actually did some research and was working with University of Vermont who was using it. So it's not restricted to public companies. Any kind of organization can put together a Balanced Scorecard approach. It's evolved quite a bit since the original Balanced Scorecard, but we're going to talk about the original Balanced Scorecard 1.0, if you will, because that's a good starting point to get a feel for what's going on with it. And there are other multidimensional performance frameworks, Performance Prism. You might see companies just go back and just use KPIs as an approach to management. But the idea when we look at the Balanced Scorecard and those related techniques is that we want to align everything so that we're looking toward the vision, the strategy of the organization. And we can communicate that both internally and externally. It's not unusual for companies to publicize their objectives with regard to their Balanced Scorecard approach. Now they use a technique we'll talk about in just a few minutes called a strategy map to do that. So those four perspectives that we see in the Balanced Scorecard, at least Balanced Scorecard 1.0, we've got learning and growth, we've got business processes, we've got the customer perspective, and then we've got the financial perspective. So the customer and the financial perspectives are those that we're fairly familiar with just from taking our accounting classes, just from taking our standard business classes. When it comes to the business processes and the learning and growth, we spend a little bit less time in our coursework on learning and growth and business processes, but organizations have found that those are important precursors to getting that customer and financial success that you want. All right.